Right, Fortified Podcast, episode 3. I flew all the way to Portugal to introduce Colin Byrne. How are you doing, bro?
I'm good, Brian. How are you going?
I'm great, always great. So, before I ask about you in introduction, we're in Lagos, Portugal, where I lived for 5 years. And the reason that I moved here, I came on holiday in 2018 and Googled the first MMA class in the town.
Right.
And I enjoyed the session that much, and I enjoyed the vibe of the guys and yourself and the advice you gave me. When I went home, I said to my wife, I need to move here. Maybe 99% reason I moved here was the gym.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think coming here, when I moved here and training here every day, especially during COVID, was a terrible time. How can I describe it? It's such a great opportunity and it's such a great way to introduce yourself to an area by having a great foundation, a great little community, a great little gym. And you're quite a cooperative. I like that.
I think a lot of people come here to sell some shit,
Right.
you know, and they're runaways. So there's no real handle on who anybody is. So if I'm in Glasgow and I meet you, I've never met you before, I can ask somebody who on your background. And
Right.
so, he's a nice guy, he's a good guy, he's not a good guy. You know, there's a background on you. But when you meet people here, you're dealing with face value. And they're generally runners. They've come from somewhere, they're going to present with their best face, like their Facebook face. And they're generally trying to sell you some shit to other people trying to sell you some shit. And that's what really happens with expat places. And I thought I'd come here and instead of trying to sell some shit, try and add something to the place. Do something to the place rather than just everybody else broke trying to sell each other shit, you know? And I think you'll pretty much figure out who people are when you're training with them. So the only people I hang around with here is people I train with.
It's the best way to find out.
You know, because 3 years later down the road, some guy you just met, he turns out to be a gobshite or not, you know. So I found for me, and then I've been to Thailand, and before I did MMA, I was a bike rider, and I just loved training like you, and I just loved training full time. And it was hard to go to Thailand if you've got a missus or if you have a partner, you know, to go for a month, and whereas it's very expensive to bring them. So I just thought, why don't people come here? It's not that far away. You can bring your partner with you. They can go to the beach. The kids can go to the pool. You can train, and everyone has a good time. So that was the idea at the start. And then no one was doing MMA. That's all. It's you can't be being forced. You know, you don't have to be the best.
Yeah.
But once you're forced,
The original, of course.
yeah, that
of
was
course.
it. So that was the whole idea coming here.
And what brought you here? Well, in the first place, like that was the reason. But why Lagos? Why did you pick a dart on the map and say Lagos?
It's one of those spots that there's a soft landing here. A lot of places you go to and it's like, wow, and you get this like, fuck, this place is cool, like Dubai. But after a while, you start to see the cracks.
Yeah.
New York, you know, after a while, but at the start, it's very razzle-dazzle. Whereas this place is a very soft landing. Almost feels like home. Mm-hmm. And the short story was, I was never ever going to go to Portugal. I just thought Portugal was for golf people, and I'm never going to be playing golf. But I won an apartment on a TV show. Did I tell you this? Yeah,
That's cool.
So me and Jules, the doc, we used to race together, and the doc's involved with Conor now, and we used to race together years ago. We kind of like, all we had in common was racing, because it was a bit socially awkward. And then when we stopped racing, we didn't hang out because I couldn't bring him out with me drinking friends because he didn't drink.
Right, oh wow.
And it was like bringing out like a 2-year-old, and you didn't know whether he was going to throw a tantrum or not. You know, you're checking the clock every 2 minutes. So he entered us into this TV show called The Holiday Home Detectives
Right.
on RTE. It was like a 250 grand apartment. And he says, we're going to go on this TV show, we're going to win it. And I was like, it was an ad in the paper. And I was like, at that stage, I didn't want to be on TV. You know, I wasn't interested in that kind of stuff. And I said, okay. And then he rings me one day and said, look, we're doing the auditions. We've called us for auditions. So we're auditioning in 3 different cities. And I said, we're on the auditions tomorrow morning. And I was like, dude, I got to work. I can't just go off, you know, like you, swanning around. So he said, like, I'll reschedule. And I said, yeah, whatever, I'm going to reschedule. So he rang me back, said they'd see us that night. And I couldn't say no.
Right.
And we showed up, and you've met Jules, haven't you? He's a big unit with fucker, right? So he had a vest on, and it was me. We went in. There was 3 boards on the interviewing panel. I knew straight away they were on the show. You know, that kind of way.
Brilliant.
And they thought I was a painter and decorator at the time. He was a doctor, and I think they thought I was the doctor and he was the painter and decorator. And that's it. We got on the show, and we ended up winning the show, and we won this apartment between the two of us, and I couldn't think of anything worse than sharing a place with the dog. It just wouldn't work out, right? So they said, look, the guys that were giving away the property, they were trying to advertise the place, so say, look, you can have half the value of an apartment each, 125 off a brand new apartment.
Wow.
And get your own each, and that's what we did.
Brilliant.
And I used to come down backwards and forwards. What could I do to stay here? And I'd done a lot of different things, like I'd studied Chinese medicine, I'd worked on doors for 12 years in Dublin, I was a painter and decorator. I could throw my hands on a lot of things. I was a martial artist, and I thought, fuck it, there's no one doing MMA. Everyone's doing kickboxing, crap. It was like Ireland or Scotland 20 years back, in the karate days.
How long was this?
I'm here 15 years now.
Wow.
So, like, they didn't know what MMA was. It was just Krav Maga and kickboxing.
Right.
And that was it. And nothing else. And karate. Like if you go back
in the day, aye.
Back in the day, and it was all built on rumour and speculation and the way things were before YouTube got invented in the UFC. But
yes.
And I was looking around. I was thinking of a warehouse. You know, that's what I was thinking. Like, everybody gets a warehouse, don't they? And I was looking for warehouses, and then there's a gym in the apartment that I won. There's a guy that used to be a gym instructor, and he said that there's a place vacant for the last like 8 years, and this place down Iberlagers. So I just jumped in the car, went down, knocked on the door, said, look, I want to see this gym place. Guy got the key, came in, opened it, and it hadn't been opened in 8 years, so it was in bits. Said, well, I'll take it.
Brilliant.
And it took me about 9 months, 10 months to get it, because they didn't know who owned it.
Yeah.
There was all rigmarole about like getting a license for it, because they brought in a new license in Portugal where you had to have a degree in sport or sport fitness. So the guy that was Mr. Portugal bodybuilder for the last 30 years, has his own gym, teaches, is gone because he doesn't have a degree. And some kid that did a 1 year degree now is in. You know, this kind of shit. So I couldn't open it as a gym, so I opened it as a school.
Right.
Because I was already a black belt in ninjutsu, so there's no belts in MMA. So if I hadn't a black belt in something, they wouldn't have given me the license for it. So I could be the world champion in MMA and you don't have a black belt. Like, what's that mean? You know.
Backward.
So it's kind of like, it's very doing business or doing anything. Here's a lot of red tape, and if you keep putting your hand up, you'll keep getting shot down. You know, and like. At one stage, I had a lawyer doing all this kind of this and that, and then eventually just stop. Just let me open the fucking door. Otherwise, you'll just spend all my money with paperwork. So yeah, that was 15 years ago. Nice. So it's been a hell of a ride, you know.
I'll take some clips here, but when you walk out here on a summer's day, a nice day like today, and you see the beach, literally just the beach is there. It's inspiring, you know.
Yeah, I would say it's the best view from any gym on the planet.
Best.
Yeah, and it changes. Like, it changes in the morning, changes in the evening. You know, the wind comes, the waves come, the sun comes. And I never lived by the sea before.
Aye.
It's so changeable, you know. Whereas you tend to get, like, when you live in a place, it tends to be very comfortable in the temperature, and you get used to it. Whereas here, it's just like, you know, changes.
You jump out your session, jump down the stairs and jump in the sea. It's the best ever, best post-workout ever.
Yeah.
So, the martial arts, black belt in ninjutsu, cyclist, you're a bit of a renaissance man. In fact, there's a lot to list here. Where did that start? Where's the martial arts journey begin for you?
I was always on the back foot, you know. I suppose I grew up in Crumlin, which was kind of a rough area. And it's kind of like you had your little corner that you didn't move off, you know, and it was always little gangs of kids. So you always had this thing of you want to be able to fight, because you had to. That's just the way it was then. But like, I never got into fights, and even in school, I was like the smallest kid in school. Like, in the 3 different, there was 1 year with like 4 or 5 different classes of the same year, different grades. And I was always like the little kid. No one ever fucked with me, never bullied, because it was funny. I could make 42 kids in a class laugh. Do you know, when the teacher say something, I'd have it like, it was fast. So everyone looked after me. But I always wanted to learn. Like, Bruce Lee was out there. I wasn't a fan of Bruce Lee. I just didn't get that whole Bruce Lee thing at all. It just was over my head. I just thought it was so ridiculous looking. And I was never a fan. And I did a little bit of Shotokan when I was 12 or 13. And I was always on the back foot, but I fell in love with cycling, and I raced around the world in trying to get to ride the Tour de France, you know. And then I just realised it just wasn't good enough, and then I got a little bit lost for a couple of years, and then I found I was looking, because there was no internet then really, like that would have been around 97, 98, something like this. That's 1997, 98. And I found this, I was going to Chinese medicine, and my Chinese medicine practitioner was like, hey, you should try Tai Chi, there's a good guy. So I started doing Tai Chi. That was my introduction, and I started doing it. And then I used to go to that every week, and then there was this Chi master guy who was coming over from England that they all used to go see, Master Ding, and he was in this place called Bujiken Brian Dojo. I thought, well, that's a strange name for a place. And it was a dojo.
Right.
And it was Bujiken, the ninjutsu thing. And I walk in, and it was like knives and samurai swords and daggers and pixels and ninjas and fucking all this wacky shit.
Brilliant.
I thought, what is this place? I want to train here. Because they'd rented it for a seminar. And I did the seminar, and at the end of the seminar, after 2 days, the guy did this, you'll see it a lot now on the internet, where the guy projects his chi on somebody and they freeze. And, you know, you're in the group, so you kind of start, the guy goes, okay, we've been here for the weekend, I want to show you some stuff, I think it's a good group. And he had his dance partner with him, you know, they always bring the dance partner, the Yuki. And the guy goes, okay, throw a punch at me. So the guy goes straight punch, and he puts his hand out, and the guy just freezes in midair. To do that, and he doesn't touch him, just brings his hand down, and the guy starts to shake, puts him on the ground, and everyone's like, and how's it? Holy shit, what the fuck's that? You know, because he'd never seen, there was no YouTube or anything, like, you know, and I thought, look at that, do that on me. No, it's too dangerous. This man has done Qigong every day for 20 years, and then I was just like, don't really believe that. And then the guy that came to lock up, I said, what's this place? And he said, it's ninjutsu. So I was like, what day do you train? He goes, Monday. Or I'll be there Monday. And I came in about 30 seconds late. And I come in, and they're playing this like fucking Japanese drum and music, and this like, it used to be an old foundry or something. There was a wooden floor with red pillars and a bit of mat and swords and shit. It was like fucking, it was proper. If you think of a dojo, this was it, and had a shrine and all that shit. I walk in, there's about 40 guys running around, and this Kodo drummer's really intense. It was candlelight, I didn't even have fucking lights on. Do you know, there's that kind of, and I walk out, and the guy goes, 50 press-ups, 50 sit-ups, 50 squats, don't be late again, and join in. That was, and I thought, this is fucking, I belong here. You know, and then this guy picks me up as he's running, come with me. They had one pad, he stopped, and he hands me the pad, and I didn't even know what we're doing. And he hits the pad like 1-2 punches, hard as he could, picked me up, threw me in an Ogoshi judo throw, no break fall, no nothing, fucking threw the fucking mat, full force. I thought, fucking yeah, love it. So, you know, I did that, and I kind of got really into ninjutsu, and it was, at the time there was no MMA, so it was all the tough dudes that were looking for something tough, and they had a reputation being tough. And it was tough, and it really made men into boys. You know, the technique, if you look back, probably wasn't the best. But you know yourself, someone that fights hard and fights good will beat someone who's technically good.
Of course.
You know, and it taught you toughness, and that really stood to me. And I'll be forever grateful to Brian McCarthy for my first kind of like mentorship in the martial art game. I was lucky to find him at the time.
A kind of strong role model kind of guy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I was a little bit lost at the time, because
Right.
I was in between identities, you know, like, because you identify yourself as a bike rider.
Right.
And then when you take that away, like, who are you? Like, I gave up everything for it, you know, gave up going out, gave up girls, gave up everything. All I did was just ride my bike.
I like, on that note, and I'll say this about you, I like your coaching style. I try and replicate this, and the best coaches I've been with are also the same. They'll teach you the techniques on the mat.
Yeah.
But after the mat, they also give you like advice or wisdom or the mentorship for life outside the mat as well, and it has to correlate as well. Because if you're coming in the mat just technique, then leaving and being an idiot, you're not really learning the basis of transformation or personal development or martial arts in general.
Yeah,
you know.
I think that's where jiu-jitsu's fallen down a lot.
I think so.
Jiu-jitsu, when it came out first, was kind of cool. Just get on the mat, slap hands, and off you go. It's all like, hey, dude. But it's lacking. It's turning gamers into martial artists.
Yep.
And it's not turning them into men. I see guys winning stuff and winning all, and you got to be a black belt off the mat and on the mat.
That's what I mean.
Like for instance, we had a guy here, Alex, and Jeff, when the black belts wanted to give him a purple belt. Now, it's well capable of being a purple belt at the time. You know, killing everybody on the mat, but he was late. He was always the first guy to pussy out. He didn't, like, if he's a purple belt, be a purple belt by show initiative to the kids below you. It's not because you're just triangling everybody. And you got to make black belt decisions as well as black belt decisions on the mat. And I think I'd be very slow to give guys belts because it's not enough just to do the technique. And I think that's where, like, Andy Ryan comes over here every year with about 50 guys, and he's a black belt judo guy. And he's brought back in a lot of the old traditional stuff, the line up, the bows. And it's kind of important. I don't need it now, but I needed it when I started. I needed the discipline of your late do press-ups.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of bring that back in because I'm thinking I was talking to you about it because you had a good idea for our foundation and stuff like that. And I was thinking of doing like scholarship for kids because I never even paid it. This place never even made a rent in 15 years. I pay it.
Right.
Everything else is a subsidy. So I've never done it for the money. It's cost me money.
Right.
And it's never been about money, and I never wanted to be. And when I see gyms that turn into money, it changes, you know.
There was a way.
So I think, like, why not just fucking do it for free? Get a bunch of kids that are willing to take a step into a different education. Because school, I don't know what school was like for you, but it didn't really work for me.
No.
Sport worked for me, not school. And
I learned a lot more off of boxing coaches than I ever did off a teacher.
Yeah, and the other thing about mentors is they don't need to be in your life all day, every day. You know, it doesn't need to be your dad. You know, it's a guy that you see once or twice a week for an hour, half an hour is enough because you got to digest all the shit. If you're just there all the time, you know, it's kind of it's not the same thing, you know. So I think if they did a scholarship where you have to, like, you want to be in it, a selective amount, and when you're in it, you got to do what's required. If you're not, you're gone. Somebody else will take your spot. And in that, you'll develop, and I think the problem we have now is leadership problems, and making boys into men. And, like, there's a guy here, Fusion, around the corner there, and he came around to me, and he's doing jiu-jitsu for kids, anti-bullying for kids. Mm-hmm. So I said, look, if your kid's being bullied in school, you failed. Jiu-jitsu ain't gonna jiu-jitsu will get him beat up more. That's not the solution. If your kid's being bullied in school, teaching him how to fight, it's probably not the solution, because he's just going to get picked on more because he's going to have a couple of moves that he learned last week. He's going to try it out and he's going to fall on his arse. So you need to really stop that way back, where the kid is confident in his own shit and he's going to get knockbacks and, you know, beat up and stuff. That's going to happen, but his attitude is what's going to get him out of stuff and into stuff, not getting on the mat in a pair of pajamas when he's 12 and thinking he's fucking Bruce Lee. Now, it's a skill that I think all kids should learn. I think it's like you do maths, you do English, you should learn how to fight. And that will kill a lot of stuff, I think, for me. But if your kid is being bullied, I think you need to go back a little bit first. Teach them how to fight for sure, but that's not going to fix the problem.
How are you changing their attitude and the confidence though? In what way are you going to
make it hard?
That? Right, make the training hard.
Make it training hard and have consequence to it.
Right.
So, like, I'll give an example. The army stopped taking people after like 24 because they can't mould you.
Really? Interesting.
But the Marine Corps, the French Foreign Legion will take you up to whatever fucking age. Because you get into the battalion and you fuck up, everyone else gets punished, not you. So you're staying with 10 guys, you're living with them, sleeping with them, fucking training with them. You fuck up, they're carrying your bag, they're doing press-ups, you're standing there looking at them.
That's a good incentive.
So do you want that when you're having your meal? Then that stupid cunt there's made us do all this. So it's got to be consequence to your actions. And I think the reason why we get problem is there's no consequence to people's actions, as in, and that doesn't mean talking about, that can be like just writing hateful things on the internet, you know, and not knowing that's very powerful, you know, where there's consequence to everything. And if people think they can kind of get away with without any consequence whatsoever, rather than teach them a couple of like hardships, teach them some discipline, but with love, not with a tyrant's hand.
Not to fill your ego, to help.
No, you're doing it to help them out. Yeah. You know, like for instance, when I get kids here, I just ignore them for a while. I just ignore them for a while because he might stay. We used to do this thing where guess how long someone's going to stay. Do you know what I mean?
Because it's such a transient place.
Yeah, you get this big pool at the start that trickles out. So like, why like spend time on someone who's just going to come and I just want to try a little bit of. I just want to try a class. Like I don't understand that. Like you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. You know. So you get a lot of people that want to try, So we'll ignore them until they come back or they stay a while, and then you kind of like, guys, he's showing up, he's starting to, and then give them some compliments. Like, you know, on the way out the door, maybe they had a hard time in class, or they're starting to push themselves a little bit harder. So now that it's getting a little bit deeper for them, and say, look, I've been watching you and you're coming on. You're doing well. Just keep doing the little small things, but not all the time. Don't mammy them, you know.
Yep.
Like for instance, I had this kid that used to come down here. He was like 16. His mother used to drive him down and collect him. We're in Lagos. How safe is this town?
Safest in the world.
And she was like, I said, look, why'd you keep picking him up? And she's like, well, I don't want to get into any trouble when he goes on the way home. You do. You're doing him a disservice. He's got to deal with it at some stage. No point in dealing with it when he's 25. He won't be able to deal with it by then. So let him have the little small interactions now rather than the big stuff that he can't deal with when he's 25 and fucking hangs himself.
Interesting.
You know, so it's all little small increments that you learn along the way. It's like you got to let people, you can give them a voice, but you got to let them make their own mistakes and feel what that is and just get on with it rather than wrap them in cotton wool. Like your kid falls, knocks his head, gets up, he's grand smiling, you know, whereas you see other kids and they're like in cotton wool. They won't let them climb this, they won't let them run around the playground, they won't let them, you know, just in case he falls, let him fall.
I dare say Crumlin or Dublin, when you were growing up, was a tough place though. Glasgow, when I was growing up, was a tough place, probably still is, compared to a kid in Lagos. They're not getting that naturally, just walking out the door and getting those experiences that we did, you know. So when a mother or father brings their family here or whatever, they're kind of almost wanting them to wrap them in cotton wool.
It is an issue.
In that environment, they're not getting those experiences. Maybe a martial arts class, as you're saying, teaching them consequences, teaching them discipline and putting them through the trenches a little bit. And then competition as well. We put them in a few fights and let them kind of develop their self-worth and self-belief and then beyond that.
Because it is a great place to bring up kids. And a great place to have a dog. You know, because you can bring it everywhere with you. But at some stage you got to learn there's a big bad world out there. And it's like, you ever see like a budgerigar when it gets out of someone's house? And it's like flying in this crow scene. Like, what the fuck is that thing? It's just gone, you know? And it's just that. You know, you'll see them a mile off. Like, you just need to, you know, that's a good, actually, observation that I would say, look, send him to Thailand when he's 15 and he fights for a year. And he lives in a shitty place in the middle of nowhere up north and lives with the Thais for a year or 6 months. And then I don't care whether he wants to be a fashion designer when he comes back or whatever, but he's still going to learn that.
I remember you said that to me about your son. So you said when your son's 16, instead of going to university, you got to send him to Thailand. And I thought, because I've done Thailand and Brazil, because my son was speaking Portuguese, my family was speaking Portuguese, I thought, why not into a favela at 16, teach him jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean?
Even better,
I'm actually, because you said that, I'm still in my mind for my son.
And it worked for like certain people that what's his name was in the UFC from Liverpool, was over there for a long time.
Dan Till.
He was running wild and went off there and came back a different dude, you know. So like there is something in that, you know, and I don't care, I don't want, like, I'm not trying to make you be a martial artist or do whatever you want to do, but you're going to have to learn certain skills in life, and martial arts is one of them.
I dare say it would help you a lot, or benefit you a lot more than going to uni 5 miles from your house.
You can always go back. Like I went back when I left school at like 14, and then I went back at like, I don't know, in my 30s, and I studied Chinese medicine. You know, because you want to study it. Like all these kids leaving school and going into university, they're just all on the piss and riding chicks. They're not fucking studying. Do you know what I mean? And then they don't get a job when they get out anyway, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, you know, get a trade. You'd be making more money when you come out the other end before they're even started, you know? And then you can go back when you figure out what the fuck you want. Like, how the fuck you meant to know what you want to do at 18 or 19? I still don't know what the fuck I want to do. Do you know what I mean? I'm just winging it. You know, so it's kind of like, you don't, and it's too much pressure on kids. Let's go travel the world, or get on a bike and ride to China, or, you know, I did an ultra distance race last year, and it was very interesting because I could never understand why people would want to do ultra distance. I just thought it was for like shit athletes and junkies or ex-junkies. Kind of is. You know, because like if you think about it, the best athletes run 100 meters.
Right.
And you're not fast enough to run with them. I'll do 200. It's slower and slower. And then you're doing like 800 kilometers, right? I'll beat you in that. So, and then, you know, a lot of them are just ex-addicts. So in that monotony of just pedaling a bike or running an ultra distance, you're lost and you're not thinking about the heroin. or the addiction or that. Do you know what I mean? But in that, there's a huge sense of self-discovery
I can see
over a certain
imagine.
period of time, do you know? And I didn't account for that aspect of it. I
What was
accounted
the
for
distance?
I met my dead father.
Aye.
Yeah, it was like fucking. It took me because at the time I was having problems with my hip, and I'd kind of signed up for this race a year before. A friend of mine that we used to race with rode it, and I thought, fuck, that looks epic. It's where all the it's called Badlands, 800 kilometers off road gravel on a gravel bike. It's a mix between a racing bike and a mountain bike.
Wow.
1,600 meters of elevation. So you're climbing all the fucking time, and it goes through 2 deserts. And it was where the spaghetti westerns were made.
Nice.
And it's epic looking.
Nice.
It's just fucking, on the scale of epic, it's epic. And I was having issues with my hips, and one day I woke up and just couldn't walk. This was about last July, and I was riding the thing in September. And I was going out and I couldn't put the power down. Some days I could, some days I couldn't. Got an x-ray and the guy's like, you need new hips, I'll see you Wednesday. I'm going to give you two new hips. And I was like, fuck that, dude, no. Got a fucking bike ride to ride, you know.
800 kilometers to ride.
So I had a walking stick on the side of the bike, and it was the last person to finish. It was like 400 and something started and 140 finished. And it kind of was I forgot what it was like to race on a bike. You know, there's something in that like, or how to suffer, because cycling's all about suffering. And a lot of guys that ride these ultras, they don't know how to suffer. I can suffer all day, but I forgot what it was like. It's 30 years ago.
Interesting.
You know, and on like the third day, I suffered. But in that, there was this effortlessness. And in the effortlessness, I didn't see anyone all day. At the start, you see loads of people because the first day, next day, and then the third day, I didn't see anyone. Fourth day, saw nobody. And I was going up this climbing out of this little town, had something to eat, climbing up about 25 kilometre climb, just like that, you know, and get to the top. And up the top here, I see some trees. My dead father is there.
Wow.
And it was like he was standing there talking to me. He was like, how you getting on, son? I was like, Grandad, how are you? Just like this.
Wow.
And he was just there. And I was like, I just had this little conversation with him. And for me, it's real. It's not like in a mirage or I was tripping around like that. And then when I got up there, he started to walk behind the trees, and then I come up with a set of rocks in the shape of a man.
Oh.
And that was it. I was like, and it was just worth it for that, you know? And the experience of having to deal with everything that fails, like all the technology failed. My sat-nav failed, 2 sat-navs, 2 of them failed. My power meter failed, my heart monitor failed, everything failed. But you just get on with it, you know.
Right.
My neck failed. I couldn't keep my head up for the last day, and then I had a small amount of time to finish the race, and the last 50 kilometers I rode the fastest ever 50 kilometers they've ever had in the race, and I made it with like 4 seconds to go.
Good.
And just took all the risks, and it was just one of those things that I didn't expect to find in something like that. I didn't know what I was looking to do, but I would never ride it again because I'm never going to get that again. But it's the hardship and the learning to suffer, really like a truly spiritual experience. Whereas, like I say, with the kids with martial arts, you got to make it tough on them, but you got to make it tough with love and not bullying them or not just being rough with them. I just mean, just make it fucking hard. And then, because we're here as well, you've got the outdoors. You can start bringing them out like the Russians do. They go on camps for with like the Boy Scouts, you know, just bring them out into the wilderness, get them to light a fire and teach them shit like that, you know. I know there's a lot of stuff like that happening in Ireland with man circles. And have you heard about man circles?
I've not, but I've started something really similar, I can imagine.
I'm sure yours is a bit more value to it than what I see here.
Right, okay.
And I've been asked to go to 2 of them here. There's a guy, German guy, does a man circle once a week here in one of the places, and then they do this kind of like retreat for 5 days. So, you know, phone, bunch of dudes come together, eat food. They do all this kind of like shadow work, talking about your father problems, and they smoke a bit of ayahuasca or drink a bit of ayahuasca. But I was asked to come up to do some, because he came down to me for a boxing lesson. And you know when someone comes into the gym and you see them shadow boxing, you just have to go like that, and that's enough to know whether he's like full of shit or not. You know, it's just that little. You know, you can just see it straight. And I'm looking at this guy going, what the fuck? And he was doing these courses where these guys were paying good money and he was getting them put on 16-ounce gloves and punch the shit out of each other.
Right.
And I was like, dude, you're in the middle of nowhere. You don't know who's got skills. You don't know what fucking... These dudes are all in their 40s or 50s.
No paramedics for that.
Plus, they're all broken. Like, they break really easy. Like, you know yourself. You hit some guy that's never been hit before. It's like, it's a car crash. I said, no, look. So he said, would you do something with them? I said, yeah, okay. So I was kind of curious of what it was. So all I did was taught them how to pummel. You know, like, you're standing in a wrestling position and you basically get your two arms around his waist, right? And you start in this one hand over his and it's 50-50. Just fight for that. That was it. And these guys, some of these guys were like in their 50s and they'd never experienced, first of all, contact.
Wow.
Secondly of all, conflict, where it was one of the biggest, because they spoke about it afterwards to each other. Or what's your intention here? It was kind of cool.
Right.
But then I just thought afterwards, it was a little bit fake.
Fake as in what? They were the man selling.
It's a little bit. I think it's. There's a little bit of honesty missing in it.
Right.
It's a little bit too feminine for me.
Yeah.
As in, like, all right, I'm all for talking about your fucking problems and stuff like that, and I'm all for talking about issues that you have and stuff like that. I'm all for that, but not all the fucking time. And sometimes you just got to bite down your mouthpiece and go fucking forward and shut up, listen to your fucking moany whole self, because everyone's got fucking problems. And I think it's developed into my mental health, my victim mentality, rather than everyone has problems. Shut the fuck up, unless it's major, get on with it. You know, and if you keep dipping back into what happened to you, what you think happened to you 20 years ago, because I know from a video, like how many videos do I make, like fucking tons of videos. I could shoot a video, Brian, last week, and I'll tell you about it, and I'll watch the video, and it's completely different. It's just a fucking story you tell yourself.
Right.
And you've based your whole fucking victim self on some shit that may or may not happen to you. And it didn't happen the way you think it happened to you 20 fucking years ago. Do you know? Now, there's certain things that mold us and there's certain things, but like if you're doing the work on self-development, and a lot of people do a lot of the same things, like, you know, the gratitude, get up, have a morning practice, things like that. If you start doing positivity and start working on the positive sides of what you have rather than on the negative sides of things that kind of happen to you to a certain extent, you just base it on some memory, I think you'll do a lot better and just leave the past behind. You know, and I think we've gone into this really gone into this victim, poor me, or poor you. What do you tell you about poor me?
Softness.
It's
softness.
Yeah, it's
not
softness.
Weakness, though.
No, there's a place and there's a time and what they have is kind of good, but it's not quite right.
Aye.
It's not, you know, it's missing something. It's missing an honesty in it. Mm-hmm. Where I think if you were doing it, there's a little bit more honesty in it than a guy who's never really done it in order to tell you what to do. Like, for instance, like, I don't think you need to fight to be a fight coach. I don't think you do. But to be a life coach, you've had to live a fucking life. Mm-hmm. You've had to have shit happen to you. You've had to have someone die. You've had to have a breakup relationship. You've had to have bad experiences on drugs. You've had to have, you know, and in that, rather than some little detail of something that happened to you when you were 6. Do you understand what I mean? Rather than a bunch of things in life that you've gone through. It's, I understand, I have empathy towards what you're talking about. Rather than not really knowing. And I think being empathetic rather than sympathetic works a lot better. And I think what those guys do, it's kind of just missing a bit more masculinity rather than, it's a little bit too yin than the yang for me.
Well, when you've got that victim mentality, you're not fully empathetic because you're always focusing on your shit. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's the total opposite of what men have to be. Men have to be, no, I don't think men have to be hard and fight, you know, I don't really mean that, but they need to get through that to know what they're capable of and also forget about the shit in the past.
Well, see what you're made of.
Shit. Exactly.
See what, like, bring yourself to the fucking bottom of the well and see if you can get it back up again.
Exactly.
And there's only a couple of ways you can do that, and that's usually just like fucking physicality.
Fighting does do it.
Yeah,
Fighting does do it. Starting a business does it. Like, do you know what I mean? Getting over a relationship does it. There's many ways of doing it.
Yeah. So I think the way things are going with people, I think it comes down to, you know, a bit of tough love, you know, and not be afraid to make. And here, there's not so many restrictions.
Right.
I would never do anything in Ireland with a kids group or teenage group or any of that kind of shit. I just wouldn't be arsed, because I grew up when we had Christian brothers in school, and they were just like fucking raping all the kids. Like, it was just like molesting all the kids, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I was in a school where there was probably 5 or 6 Christian brothers that lived and there was one guy had a prefab 42, Mullins was his name. If you got him in primary school, he fondled every kid, right? But at the time it was not such a big deal. To be honest with you, Brian, it was just like, bring it down the back thing, fill your balls, in you go again. Everybody laughing that it wasn't them.
Fox.
But it wasn't it was just normal.
I know.
Whereas those kids later, 20, 30 years, are just traumatized by this fucking thing. But at the time, it wasn't such a big... I've been in traumatic fucking consequences in life where really have a huge effect on you, rather than looking for these small things that may or may not have affected you in the first place, you know?
I dealt with trauma. I survived 2 murder attempts when I was younger, and I never felt like a victim because of it, but I did become reckless, and I did become super aggressive and try to fight my way out of it. And then years later, understanding, even not too long ago, I thought, well, I've passed that. That's in the rear view mirror, and I can move on with my life. Same as these guys that you're saying that they're crying at these things.
Yeah.
Grab your balls and fucking go over it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's great to have a cry.
Have it, but have it once and then that's it.
We don't need to be at the same one next year.
No chance. No chance.
It's like, you know, you just don't need to be there all the time. You don't need to be in therapy every week.
It's actually quite a bit manipulative of somebody that's asking them to come every year as well to do the same thing, because they need to be over that. Get over it, and then, right, okay, you don't need to come, you don't need to deal with that again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, I'll say it again, like, I know some people that went through some traumatic stuff when they're younger and fought their way through it, actual boxing or martial arts and stuff like that. And then, for instance, like those fathers fondling a kid, right? That's going to take your identity a wee bit, because you're going, fuck, I'm a man, what's happened there? But if you can fight your way out of it, you can go and enact your will against another man, a martial arts professional competition, then you kind of know your value, you know your self-worth, you know that you can fight, you know that you're a man, basically. You know?
Yeah. You've heard of, what's the name, Watch My Back? He wrote that book.
Jeff
Thompson.
Jeff Thompson.
That's his story is a phenomenal story. He actually sent me a message,
right?
And I would have, like, when we started Force, we used to get his videotapes, because he was the first he pretty much one of the first mixed martial artists, because he was a karate guy, right. And then he started working on the door, and it didn't work. So he started learning sambo, and he learned judo, and he started learning all these other things, and then he'd have this, like, what was it called? They had this Friday night animal day is what they called it. So the lads would just show up with just have a knock. And they start off with boxing gloves, and then as soon as they hit the ground, the lads would pull their gloves off, and they just grapple.
Brilliant.
Didn't know what they were doing, but there was nobody else doing that. And I used to watch his videotapes. He had like 4 mats in his hallway. And he was abused as a kid, and he just became this super aggressive, and that went out on knocking people out on doors and being a bully, and everywhere he went there was violence. He'd go to a chipper, there was a fight. He'd go to a christening, there was a fight. He'd go to a wedding, there was a fight. And his wife once said, do you not see the common denominator here? It's you. The reason why the violence is there is because of you. And then he turned his whole life around, put that behind him, bumped into his abuser one day.
Wow.
And when he was like a grown man, and he saw him in a cafe, and he went over to him and he goes, "You don't know who I am, do you?" He goes, "You fucked me. You fucked me." And the man was like, and he said, I kept all my rage in. I wanted to hit him, but I didn't want to hit him. I just wanted to forgive him.
Wow.
And then the guy killed himself after.
Wow.
But after that, he became into the Buddha side of martial arts, like reading and philosophy, and he'd go away and read all of his books. And his journey is phenomenal. And he sent me a message.
Nice.
Because if someone asked me to be on a podcast, I always look like, how many people have you had on a podcast? Because I don't do many. And so, how long have you been on? How long is your podcast? If it's 20 minutes, I don't want to be on it. So this guy only had a few people, but he had Jeff Thompson before me. I said, look, if Jeff Thompson's going to be on a podcast, I'll fucking do your podcast. Yeah. And then Jeff commented and sent me a private message. And it was lovely. It was one of the only ones, because you meet a lot of famous people along the way, and don't have much truck in them, to be honest with you. You know, they're just actors pretend to be somebody else learning lines, or, you know, singers or stuff like that. If you've won the Tour de France or you're an MMA guy, yeah, kind of cool. But he sent me a message one time saying, I've been watching you from the sidelines, and fair play to you, you've done very well for yourself. You know?
Nice call.
Yeah, so I think when you get, every now and then you get the work that you've done, even though sometimes you feel like it's invisible. There's someone out there watching your work. I used to get this guy on an oil rig. He'd send me a message every 6 months. He used to watch my vlogs. He used to bang out vlogs. Can't wait. I'm on an oil rig for a month.
Good.
You know, and you're kind of like, fuck, I'll just do one and give him a mention, you know. And you forget the effect that you're having in it because you're doing positive. You're saying positive things. You're doing positive actions. You're not wallowing in your shit. And that people are looking that are further down the ladder to grab onto that vibe, you know.
Wow, that's
grab
good.
onto that
Good
vibe
analogy.
and maybe go down the road and start doing boxing, or maybe go down the road and start doing something, or maybe send you a message. And I do this all the time. I had this near-death experience, and then afterwards, I was lying on the road dying, and you know, I was just, all I had was like fucking regret
Of what?
everything. I
Really?
regretted everything. I should have said this to that. I should have said that to this. And I felt my life disappear, like slowly dying. And I survived. And then afterwards, it changed me. I was like, anytime someone has a positive effect on me, whether it's a record I hear on the thing, someone says a line to me, someone said something 10 years ago, I write them a message.
Nice.
And I say, listen, you might know this, but you said this to me one day. Because people don't know the effect they're having. You know, people don't know that. Like, I had a kid here, he has the record for the 200 steps.
Really?
Val, Moldovan kid. He was a judo guy, dancer guy, but he was super talented. But I just couldn't get him to stay, you know. And he got married, grew up, went to Lisbon, and one day he sent me a message, "Are you in the gym? Can I come down?" And I said, "Sure." And comes down and he hands me this bottle. It's kind of the irony of it. I have it on my little altar in the thing. It's like a bottle of brandy in the shape of a Kalashnikov rifle.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Nice.
The weapon has killed more people on the planet than anything else. And he said,
brandy
like,
or Kalashnikovs?
yeah, both. Yeah, both. Yeah. So he said, like, you know, you mightn't realise this, but I met you at a time where I'd no father, and you became a father figure, and you never charged me any money, and you made me feel like a man again. And you start crying, you know.
Wow.
And like, you don't see that when you're doing it. It's like pulling the kids aside and saying, listen, you know, you're doing all right there, you know.
That's powerful.
You know, I remember, like, it happened to me as a kid. I was like, say, I was the smallest kid. I went for the football trials, Gaelic football, you know, you kick the ball, you know. And I was never on any team, so there's just no one to pick me. I was just too fucking small. And I had the ball. This guy, Colin Byrne, I always remember his name, took the ball off me, ran away. And I ran after him, just kicked his legs, and he face planted. And there was a guy called Mr. Flood. Everyone was terrified of him. He was the ref, and he was picking. And he, you know, blew his whistle, gave me the red card, went off. And if you did anything wrong, he was always chewing gum. If you did anything wrong, you'd have to buy him a packet of chewing gum. And he handed me a chewing gum.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And every time he used to come in to see the teacher that was in our class, he'd always call me up and hand me a chewing gum. And everyone's like, why's he giving that kid a chewing gum? You know?
That's class.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, you just saw that it was a struggle for me.
Aye.
And just kind of a little tap on the shoulder, you're doing all right.
That's good.
You know? And I always remember that for it, you know? Even though there was nothing else said of it, it was just like, you know, don't worry about it, you get on with it, you know? And I think it's like, I met my old ninjutsu teacher, Brian McCarthy. I went back to thank him because, like, when you joined Brian's, you were in or you were out. It was black and white. It was very Japanese. And he gave me a lot of advice. He'd sit in the office, and if the office door was closed when you went down, there was someone talking to him. And if you had something going on in your head, you just go in and ask, and he'd give it to you in one fucking line. Because you already know what the fucking answer is, right? And at the time I was studying Chinese medicine, and I went to there was 2 opportunities to go to 2 different colleges, and I went to the interviews for both. The first one I went to, Tom Shanahan, was the acupuncturist of my Tai Chi teacher and my acupuncturist. My acupuncturist said, he's the man, go see him. My Tai Chi teacher said, don't go to him, he's an idiot. So I went, and he was this larger than life voice. You know, one of these voices that dominates the room.
Aye.
And he'd like just fucking, you know, if you were late, these are adults paying like good money. It's like 12 people in the class. If you were late, they'd lock the door, wouldn't let you in. Doesn't matter if you puncture in the car, you had to wear a suit. You had to hoover up the place afterwards. You had to write as he spoke and then record it and then rewrite 150 foolscap pages as homework back of the recording. It's great because I couldn't spell at the time. That's why I left school. So I learned how to spell and write again, right? And I remembered it all because I didn't have to read the book, right? So it worked for me. One day, like, he was always just a knob end, and one day he decided to, like, call me a different name all day. You know, this kind of shit, you know? So we were going back after the first year, and we're starting on the Saturday, and the money had to be in on the Wednesday, and it was something like $2,500 or $3,000 or something like that, right? This back in 2000. So I decided to give him a ring. Say, listen, Tom, how you doing? It's Colin Byrne here. Oh, yes. How are you? You ready for next year? I said, yeah. I said, listen, would it be okay if I just bring the money with me on Saturday? There was a pause, and he goes, get that fucking money to me by tonight, or fuck off. And I was taken aback by it, you know, like, so I said, yes, that's heavy, you know. So I went into Brian. I said, you all right? He used to call me Serpico. You all right, Serpico? I said, yeah. What's trouble here? And he'd be smoking, you know. So after having this weird interaction with the thing and told him what happened, he goes, okay. So you're going to let someone talk to you like that, and then you're going to hand them €3,000. Do something else.
Right, wow.
And that was it. I rang up the other university I went to the year before that they accepted me, but I didn't go. And I said, listen, can I come to you for a second year? Yeah, straight away. But it was just that straight to the fucking point.
Brilliant.
I never forgot that sort of a voice, you know. And I think everyone knows pretty much the answer to the question they're looking for anyways, right? But if you get people that...
Guidance.
You know, and just get someone to straight to the fucking point, and you're going to let someone talk to you like that, and then you're going to hand them money.
I like it.
You know?
Like it. That's
and it was great. So I went back to I just got reminiscing about him, and I hadn't seen him since I've been here, because it was like you're in or out, and he used to run security and doors, and he gave me my first door job, and even though I didn't go to do it because I'm not a big guy, and taught me a lot about stuff, and taught me about weapons, taught me about all sorts of stuff, and I decided, why don't I just go back and train with Brian when I'm in Dublin with Conor? I'll just drop in, do a bit of training, like jiu-jitsu. But I forgot that wasn't what he did. You're either with him or you're not with him. You can't just come and train once a week. You're in or you're out. And I had to go through somebody else to talk to him. You know, I got in touch with Joe Howie. I said, Joe, would you ask the boss? And then tell him, he said, yeah, it's okay. He said, it's okay for you to ring him. It was all that real Japanese shit, you know. Totally. Ring him up. He goes, hey, Brian. Yeah, who's that? It's Colin. Who? Serpico. How can I help you? You know? So I thought Brian, and thought it might be, you know, come back and start training again, maybe, you know?
Good.
And he was just like, okay. So, why all of a sudden you just want to train me? And I didn't even think about it myself. I don't know, I just thought, wouldn't be a bad time, you know? Yeah. So he said, tell you what I do, I'll meet you for a coffee. So I met him for a coffee, and he showed up, and he just fucking read me the right act for about 20 minutes. Because I kind of left, and I was the kind of golden child that was going to get all the scrolls, and I'd kind of start doing MMA and been to Thailand and fought in Thailand and came back, and nobody else did that. You know, even though you were told you could go anywhere else, you couldn't. You had to be with him. And then when I came here, we just kind of like drifted, you know. And he just gave it double shotgun for the whole fucking thing, you know. And then I realised, you know, how much I changed in 20 years of when I was with him, because he was the boss and he was a mentor to me, and how he was still there, and I'd kind of drifted on over here, and he's done his job, but I've kind of outgrown him, and you should outgrow your mentors, and it was just that huge lesson for me. And then I just said to him, look, Brian, I haven't got the time or the commitment to give you what you need, and I just came to thank you for all you did for me.
Nice.
Even though you might think I'm a bit of a dick, I'm actually very grateful, and I think that you made at the right time. You're in my life, and that's what they say. Mentors come into your life at the right time, and that would be one advice I'd give to people: is like get yourself a mentor, and that's not buying a coach. That's getting out there and doing different things until you find someone that has a shining light that you look at and you go, I want what he has.
You need to resonate with the advice you're giving.
Well, like when did you find your first mentor? Do you remember what age?
I've had many, mate. You're probably one as well. You are one. I've had many, and I've had, like, this is quite, my dad was like a bit of a mentor, as a mentor,
yeah.
right? So I had a very, very strong dad.
Yeah.
Still do.
Yeah.
And a lot of my lessons came from my dad as I was like going through life, still to this day. But then through martial arts, I've had different coaches. But as I said to you earlier on, the way I like you and the way I like your coaching system is, the guys that I learn from, mentors and coaches, it's not just purely on the mats, it's the stuff after.
Yeah.
Give an example. The guy I train with just now, Robert Whiteford, fought in the UFC, first ever Scotsman in the UFC and stuff like that. 42 still fights, PFL. And he's that judo way.
Right.
So if I don't turn up, he doesn't phone me, he doesn't answer the phone to me, he doesn't talk to me, do you know what I mean? Like, but I don't seek them, they seek me.
Yeah.
They don't seek me, they find me naturally, you know what I mean?
There has to be the right time. It's like meeting the right woman, isn't it?
The right time, that's what I'm saying. I came here in 2018 and trained with you.
Yeah.
I remember I had a conversation with you about something that ended up getting into trouble years later, and you told me not to do it.
Yeah.
I never told you in depth, but you said to me, you better just stick to martial arts. And I liked that, mate. I didn't really know you. I really liked that. And then when I went home to Scotland that summer and says, fuck, I need to go to Lagos, that Colin's cool, the guys are cool in the gym and that. So I always resonate with somebody that's willing to teach me lessons off the mats, basically. I always resonate with people like that.
Yeah, and I think it just comes down to life experience. And people say, like, how have you had? I'm just around longer. And then I like to reinvent myself every 10 years, like be a white belt in something. Like, it's very comfortable just always showing up in a place where you've been, but just go learn something new, be a beginner and feel what that like. It gives you a little bit more appreciation for guys that walk in the first day walking in here. Because I'm not the nicest guy to meet when you walk in first. Generally, I'm not. Like, it's kind of like, if you're a little bit nervous, I'm gonna make you a little bit more nervous. Generally, you know,
that's part of the trenches.
It is, like, or I'm not gonna babysit you. And like, if you can't find a place, well, it's on you, dude. Don't be fucking ringing me, ask me where it is. Go fucking do a recce the day before and find it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the battle. I ain't fucking gonna, hold your hand. So I think, like, my first mentor would have been, I'd say, the Doc Jules in when I started riding the bike, because he, I suppose, like, dominating mother, dominating uncle, boss when I was doing my apprenticeship, kind of like just been told what to do all the time, never allowed to do what you wanted to do. So it was fairly quiet, and then I met Jules, who was just this fucking lunatic, like, and like the last of the punks, and who'd done lots of, like, he was one of those guys that the whole school waited outside for him one day.
Right.
That's how popular. And did he give a fuck? People say, I don't give a fuck. Didn't give a fuck.
Wow.
First person that pops up, I'll just fucking smash your head in. The whole school. Good. So he's just one of those guys, and he did things completely different to me. And, like, I remember dropping plate on the floor. We're in Guadeloupe in the Caribbean. He got a ride from me on a bike race down there. Dropped the plate, and I was kind of rushing to pick it up. And he goes, "What are you rushing for? I'll be there after your dinner. Have your dinner." Whereas my mother would be going fucking nuts. And it just made me look at things differently, rather than instinctively, like a dog, hear the bang, you sit, it's kind of like, rather than, well, what are you rushing for, and made me look at things differently, because he just came from a completely different upbringing, different mindset, different everything. And that was the first kind of one. And then I suppose Brian was another one. And then, like, as I went on, then Star became a mentor to me, because, like, I kind of got a little bit lost as well, because I been on the road with Conor, because, like, that job was like, that job has a price. Like looking after a grown up has a price. It's kind of like, I remember being offered jobs before, doing security for the Prodigy.
Really?
I just wouldn't do it. This is when they were out the other end of it, because you're just babysitting adults, and you give up your whole life for them. And in that, there's a cost for that. Plus, you then won't take on all their troubles, but two, you're not looking after yourself.
That's true.
And then all that stuff that's willing to get in will get in. You'll start getting into little addictions. You'll start getting into all sorts of stuff. You'll start getting into, like, you're not being honest, you're not being truthful, you're not being any of those things.
You're taking that energy on as well when they're
Plus, you're covering up for them all the time, so your whole life's a fucking lie. you know. And then you're always like, well, they're like, oh, they're great lads. Well, they're not. You know, it's just that all the time. And I suppose that was another mentor for me to like make me recorrect the way I was starting to go. And then I'm just always looking to improve.
Same. I'm a information addict in self-development. And
you're doing great. Like you're doing great.
And I was lucky as well. Lucky or unlucky, I spent 11 months in prison, and all the lessons that I'd been like learning but not using, not utilising. I sat in a jail cell 11 months and just went, right, fuck it. Point A to point B, where's my life going to go? And see if I left. I said, I'm going to do this. I'm done every single one of them.
How was that? Like day one?
Day one was mental, because I got arrested in prison the exact that day. I couldn't take me process it. I thought I was going to get out and I wasn't.
And then everything's gone, your phone's gone, you can't talk to anyone.
Couldn't phone my wife for weeks, couldn't see my kids, didn't know what the fuck happened.
And a different language?
But I speak Spanish.
Oh,
I speak Spanish. I speak fluent Spanish, so I was okay that way. But I'm in a ingreso, I'm in like a induction wing with Spanish gypsies, and I'd been practicing Islam for like 7 years, but like subtly in myself. I was like studying it and stuff like that. So I seen this wee Arabic guy, started asking. I was fucking wanting to do something, so I started talking to him. Like, going to teach me Arabic and that got me through the 3 days.
Right.
And I went to an international wing, and I was lucky. I heard my voice. Hissy, people call me Hissy. Hissy, is that you? 2 guys from Scotland.
Yeah.
And that, mate, see, to be honest with you, when men get together, it can be very violent, but it can also be quite cool.
I think so,
See, like when, for instance, you're walking to the canteen with a 38-year-old and stuff like that, and you're tapping somebody on the shoulder and they're turning around, you're skipping, see wee boisterous things like that. Yeah. That was pretty cool. And as I said, I was 36. So I was looking at my cell ceiling every night and just thinking about all the trouble that had caused people, reflecting on it deeply, all the stuff. See, you said when you had that near-death experience and you were regretting, I was regretting everything, every night. It was a constant movie in my 36 years of my life. But it's in the past now. I don't need to go to a men's retreat and cry about that. I've done it. I didn't cry a tear, but I dealt with it.
Yeah.
And as I said, I wrote these books. I started to write. I love writing. Yeah. And I wrote, I'm going to fight on a top show. I fought in 2 of the top shows of the world recently. I'm going to do a coaching programme, done a coaching programme. I'm going to go to Mecca. I went to Mecca. One of them was I'm going to go back to Lagos. Right. I'm kind of here on holiday, but I'll see how it is. Yeah. But it was good. It was good, mate. It was good. And a lot of people helped me out, which was good. So I found out who my friends were and stuff like that, and they all joined in. You touched on Conor McGregor there. Yeah. So that's a full podcast in itself, full series. But how did you go from ninjutsu to in the UFC in Conor McGregor's corner? What's happened there?
Yeah, there's a thing in life, and I suppose it's probably the best lesson I've ever learned, is when someone says, "Can you do this?" You just say yes.
I like that.
I know that some people say you need to learn to say no,
right?
And that is something that people, if you just keep saying yeah all the time to everything,
of course.
But sometimes you need to learn to say no.
But for caution,
for opportunity,
of course,
you need to say yeah. And I remember did a security job with this guy called Graham Barton in England, and we spent 4 days in a car sitting together while we were doing. We're looking after the CEO of Abbott Laboratories. So they were opening up a new fucking laboratory. He was coming over. We had to practice this town we'd never been in before. We sat there for 2 days practicing the town. Then he arrived, just make sure nothing happens to him. Doesn't even know we're there, you know. So he just conversating with this dude who was 25, 30 years older than me.
Right.
And he was just an interesting dude. And he had this company called Battle Orders, all these swords and all this shit. Anyway, he says to me, you know, Colin, I'm a fat middle-aged man with a bad sense of dress. I can't walk into a nightclub and say, "Hey, baby, you want to come on with me?" But I know salsa. We start here. And then in his house, he had a studio with all these chicks that he banged. No, it was his angle, right? But he was one of these guys that built up this company that sold weapons.
Right.
And he used to just go to karate tournaments and sell karate suits on a table. And then some guy said to him, "Hey, man, we need some chariots done for," this would have been in the 80s, "for this movie we're making. Can you get chariots?" And he was like, "Sure." So it's like, shit, got this deal for these chariots, this big fucking deal with Hollywood, gets on a plane, goes to China. This is before people knew what the fuck anything was. And got it done, and I learned a lot just from those little conversations about he had no idea what to do. but he just so charismatic. He just say, yeah, of course I can. And I found along the way that people that I've met along the way are the same, that are successful now. They work hard and they do all this sort of stuff. But I digress. So with Conor, I was training in SPG when John was in a shed. He was around the corner from my flat in Phibsborough. And I'd say the only people left there were Dave Roach, Roddy, Andy Ryan, John. Right? So, but I was still doing jiu-jitsu, and I used to go up every now and then, you know. And then eventually did more. And then we were up in, probably the third dojo. We'd been to Harold's Cross and another one in Drimna, Longwell Road, and Conor showed up. And we never had a striking coach. We just did rounds. On Thursday it was like 2 rounds, 2 lines, or 10 rounds, 2 lines. And he got a bunch of like fucking Eastern European jacked up juices that just arrived over, not going to show you. There's always someone knocked out. And I used to pull out the pad now in my gloves just to survive. And it's just a scrap. Anyway, he shows up, Conor. And he was just kind of like, just fucking confident kid. But he had boxing skills. So all of a sudden he became this boxing coach.
Oh, really?
So we did boxing lesson. I used to go to his classes.
Right.
And you were talking about teaching skills. He's a really, really good teacher.
I done a session here. It was good. I done a boxing session before.
And he does it very different to me. I just cut the dead weight.
Right.
Like with McCarthy and that, you just like if you're in a group of 10 guys and you're at war and some guy's slowing you down, you put a bullet in the back of his head because he's going to kill everyone kills, right? That's just his mentality, right? It's just that old Japanese thing, right? He's got to get everyone killed because he's too fucking slow. Whereas he brings the whole flock in,
right?
You know,
good.
I just cut the dead weight. He gathers the whole flock. It's just a different mentality, and I like that about him. So I used to go to his class, and then I brought him down to the ninjutsu place. I gave him some acupuncture. You know the way, like, sometimes you do stuff for someone and you don't even remember fucking doing it, but it meant a lot to them at the time, and you didn't realise it. But you had the right conversation at the right time with them, and they were just having a conversation. But you just meant a lot to you at the time, and you've had that yourself with people, and people have had that with you that you probably don't even know about. He was having some headaches. And I'd studied Chinese medicine, and he just said to me after training, "Man, no, he's concerned." And I said, "Okay, did you get any scans?" Or, yeah, everything's okay. I said, "Look, come down, I'll give you some acupuncture down the dojo." And I gave him some acupuncture a few times. And that was kind of the cementing of a relationship as such. Yep. Didn't charge him anything for it. And I was just like, you know, I just kind of did that to people. It wasn't just him, it was other people as well. And we used to train together, and you know, he didn't have any jiu-jitsu at the start, so I always kind of partnered up with him a little bit. And just had that kind of. And then when I moved here, he was on holidays. I seen him on Facebook and all before. So I just went down and kidnapped him. He was down by the pool with his board. There's a kid in the car. Come up and train. We did a bit of training. And that happened a couple of times. And then I'd go back and I'd always end up training with him when he was, because he was just going to classes. He wasn't anything special at the time. He was just, you know, was he in Cage Warriors? He was in Cage Warriors at the time. And he was kind of making a bit of waves for himself. But he was like every other kid, you know. And then what happens is he gets in the UFC, comes here, and we go for a walk. You just have to go in, and he was like, "I'm thinking of going to Brazil and training in Aldo's gym." I was like, "Oh, that'd be a great experience for you, you know, really good, it'll develop again." I don't know. I'd knock him out. I was like, "What are you talking about? He's Aldo, he's never," you know, and at that stage you could see, he wasn't listening to the script of what everyone was saying, he could see, right. He's a bit of a maestro in this kind of, in being able to see what the shots are, and so he got in the UFC. Then he loses the fight, and I started doing 30-day vlogs. At the time, no one was really doing them, and I wanted to learn how to edit. So I decided to shoot video, edit, and upload the video before midnight every day for 30 days. Right. That changed my life. Because you can make a video, put it out, and you might make one for another 2 or 3 weeks, but by the time someone sees it, it might be 6 months in between. But if you're doing one every day, a little story a day, plus you have to think about what you're going to do in a day, plus I had to learn how to edit. He saw my video, and he just been beaten by, and he remembered that I used to cycle, and I was cycling into town on my bike talking to the camera, you know? And he says to me, "What's up?" He goes, "What's up?" He said, "Listen, I had a problem with the cardio. Do you think I could help out because you used to be a cyclist and all that?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And I was like, "Fuck, that's a lot to take on for me." So I got in touch with Jules that I used to race with. So Jules, you know this guy McGregor? He goes, "Yeah, because Jules used to be the ring doc at some of the fights." Oh, right. He says, "I do." Yeah, he didn't know anything about MMA. So I said, "Would you get in touch, get them lab tested, and they're going to come down here for a few days, and we'll show them a few little bits and pieces. So we did, stuck them in a lab, got them tested VO2 max, anaerobic threshold, brought them down, him and John and a few of the guys, Artem Lobov, Lee Hammond, came down for a week, and we basically showed them how to do interval training. So on the rower, on the bike, on the stairs, and then at the end of the week, I was like, fuck, I'm bollocksed. I've just done 2 sessions a day for a whole week. I'm delighted to see the back of these cunts, you know. So he sends me a message, because me and Jules are busy pushing the rental bikes back. We always end up pushing bikes back in the range, you know what I think? With 2 bikes each, pushing them back to the rental place. They were all getting ready to go. And he's like, do you want to go to Iceland? Just got this text out of him. Because we were just going to go up and say goodbye to him. And I said, yeah, lovely. Thinking like, well, in a month or 2 months or 3 months. So we got up, said goodbye, and he's like, well, are you coming or what? He goes, what do you mean you're coming or what? Let's keep this going. Come to Iceland, we're going now. And I said, I haven't been anywhere in ages because it's spent so long here. And I was like, can you give me like a day or something? And he goes, yeah, sure, all right, to be in touch with you. So whoever got in touch with me got on a flight to Iceland. And halfway there, I get this fucking message in London, can you go to Vegas?
Right.
I was like, well, it was all coming at me like thick and fast, you know. I was like, fuck, yeah, sure. And no one texted me back. And I hadn't heard anything, so I said, right, I'm just getting on the plane to Iceland. And then when I got on the plane to Iceland and landed, I got all these messages about him retiring. He just retired. And I was like, I'm just after getting here. I just announced retirement. And I just got here. Give me a minute. So anyway, he was only a blag. I ended up getting him out of bed every morning. So my gig then was just keep up the cardio work, because they hadn't a fucking clue, to be honest with you. They were all doing the same thing, hitting tires with sledgehammers, pushing prowlers up and down, and that was it, based on nothing. Whereas Jules and I knew how to
create a system.
Yeah, and cyclists are the fittest guys on the planet, really,
Right.
and it's not out of chance. Everyone's got a monitor. They monitor everything. Everyone's got a power meter. Everyone's got a pulse meter. All the data is checked. So we just check with data, not with just how you feel.
Right.
So my job was get him out of bed, wake him up, communicate through the medium of I'd make him his breakfast. So I'd get up, right, Conor, make him the breakfast, give him his, and I'd go back out, come back in, he'd be back in bed, porridge would be gone, leave him a coffee, and I'd have the row machine in the sitting room. And then I'd get him on the rower. And then they'd go training, then I'd get him out on the bike. And that was it. And then there for a week, came back, and then and then he's like, I'm going to LA next week and no one will go. And there was no money at the time. He wasn't rich, or he just fought Diaz. It wasn't, he was just an ordinary dude, really, still. I said, fuck, no, I'll go. When's it? Like tomorrow. Would you go? I said, yeah. So I went and I held pads, I sparred him on the roof, me and him and his board and Vasil. And then we went into the Call of Duty, the game, and they were taking photographs and masking him and all that kind of shit. And all of a sudden, I was like fucking, I was just with him everywhere, through all these doors that had never opened for you. Do you know, going to see Lorenzo's in Lorenzo's office then, all these kind of guys. And all of a sudden, I just kept going with him everywhere. And then I said to Jules, you know what, Jules, I think we might even get a shout to go to this fight, you know? And all of a sudden, we were on the fight camp.
Wow.
And then we're in Vegas for 8 weeks or wherever the fuck it was. And then all of a sudden we were just going everywhere with him. So in between the fights, me and him or me would just go somewhere with him. We'd go to wherever he was going to. We'd just go with him, find a gym, find something, have everyone. When he woke up, there'd be like, I want to do this today. So I'd already have 3 or 4 different options for him. Boxing gym, found an MMA gym, found this, found a road we can run on, found a bike, found this. And I just make sure everything worked, and then I communicate through everybody with the security and the thing. And all of a sudden I was just doing that, and I wasn't getting paid. I remember being in Miami and go over the security guys, go, do you know what me asking? What do you get paid? It's like, we're just doing the crack, like, to be honest, like, you know. We were getting paid for the fights,
right,
but we wasn't getting paid to be there. And I suppose that's the way no one was really doing it, really, you know. And then we came up with the McGregor fasting after the thing, and he got that going. And then all of a sudden, I was in the corner for the Cowboy fight. And then the last 3 fights I did the corner. And then I was just like full-time. He gave me a full-time contract. He came into me we were in Chicago and Paddy's Day, and he goes, I want to talk to you. I was like, yeah, sure. I went up to his room and he's like, I want to give you a contract.
Cool.
Full-time. That's very nice of you. I said, look, you don't need to be there all the time, but when I need you, you need to be there. And that's the way it always was. So I'd always be half-packed. I'd be like here to get a call. I'd be gone in half an hour. and I'll be gone for 3 months, you know, and that was just the way it was. And it's not for everybody. I mean, Jules said a very good thing. We mightn't be the best at what we do, but not many people can do this. Do you know what I mean? You might get a better doctor, you might get a better sports guy, you might get a better pad guy, but he's not going to be able to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning when a text comes.
It's very, very hard to find that. Locate people who can
4
do
o'clock in the morning, can't sleep. You all right? What do you want to do? Would you hold pads? Yeah, see you in 5 minutes. Not complaining, not moan, not anything. And it was just that. And it was kind of like I was able to get him out of bars and get him out of nightclubs and stop things happening before they happened, you know, that kind of way, and keep him on the straight a little bit, and not all the time, but, you know, I just wanted to make a happy ending out of it. And that was it. And it was just like, it was an incredible experience in my life to look at the things that I wanted in life that realised they don't mean anything. That's
interesting. That's fair enough. You said that to me yesterday, so
yeah.
What exactly do you like? Just like partying and fucking money and...
It's ephemeral. You don't own any of it.
Aye, I like that.
You don't own the Rolls Royce, you don't own the jet, you don't own the boat, you know, and it's ephemeral. It's like when you were a kid. Do you remember that jacket you always wanted? There's a photograph when you're a kid, you're wearing the same fucking, you saved up your pocket when you got this jacket. And you're just proud as punch wearing it, whatever it was, or a hat or something. You don't even know what happened to it in the end. Do you know what I mean? It just fucking disappeared somewhere. So it's kind of like I've met all the top guys in the world and everything. I've been on the private jet, the Prince of Monaco's fucking jet. Do you know what I mean? With the fucking emblem on it. And I've met all these, like, the guys that you think, like, they're lucky or they're this or they're that. And it's kind of like a double-edged blade. Because one is, they're not as good as you thought they were going to be. And secondly is, you're as good as them. And the only reason you're not there is because you're not working as hard.
All right, that's interesting.
So, like, get off your fucking hole. So I remember I started doing videos first. I looked at guys that were, like, better than me. And thinking, like, how many videos does he make a day? He does 10. Or photographs. He takes 10 photographs. I'm going to take 20 or 30 because I've got to make up for 10 years. I got to catch him up because he's now taking the foot off the gas.
Right.
And I'm going to come up to him fast and go straight past him. And it's the only way to catch up. I got to do more than he's doing in order to catch up. And a lot of the guys, you'll see them, they were like Graham Barton. Yeah, I can get you that fucking, no problem, I'm making chariots. And I'm like, how the fuck do I make chariots? And then they blag it and they get in. And then they hire a bunch of gatekeepers below that will do the work. Because no one can do everything.
No, you need a delegate.
Everyone's got their little expertise or something, but you need to hire people that are better in their field. He's a better accountant. He's a better software developer. He's a better... But at the start, when we're not in fight camp, can I hold pads? Yeah. Can I spar? Yeah. Can I roll? Yeah. Can I run? Yeah. Can I ride a bike? Yeah. But that's only to get you to the fight camp. When the fight camp comes, bring in the pad guy. Bring in the sparring partners. Do you know what I mean?
Understand.
But it'll get you there. If you didn't have that, then you have nothing. So in order to... I think that's a good analogy for just getting ahead in life. Say yeah to opportunity. Get in there and then get other people that are better than you to fill in the gaps. And you be the person. The reason why me outfit goes to the same car sales guy isn't because he just gives him a better deal. It's because he likes the guy.
Yeah.
He always give me a good deal, John. Hey, John. Yeah, I always get the car off John. It's the same price down the fucking road. But he always wants to go to John.
Aye.
It's because of him. He wants to do the deal with him. It's not about the car. So with business, it's the same. They want to deal with you. You know? And all it is just pushing, working hard. This 4-hour week's a lot of bullshit. You remember that book?
I've read that.
Yeah, it's not. That dude probably sleeps 4 hours a night, if that. He's working 20 hours a day. And all those guys, they just work. I stayed where we did a whiskey tour one time. And one of the guys on the whiskey, he's a very wealthy guy. I'd say he was a billionaire at the stage. He was involved with the whiskey at the start. And he was driving. And he had his right-hand man with him. He was like a secretary, right? And I was sitting in the back of the car as he went to all these stops to sell the whiskey or meet people or whatever we're doing, promoting the thing. And from the time he got in the car to the time the sun went down, he was on, all right, call him, email him, call him, get back to him, the whole time.
Wow.
Constantly. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm working really hard. Okay, what did you do between 3 and 4 on Thursday? What did you do between 4 and 5 on Saturday? fuck all. You're not working really hard. You're kidding yourself. You're working really hard. So that's been the thing. It's like if you want to get ahead in anything, you gotta like show up, be consistent, put the work in, and you'll get ahead, and love it, you know, and find something that you love and do that, because it'll show and it'll attract other people, you know. So
I dare say that your character, though, and we've just spoke about your ability to take everything you've left, your experience, learn from your experience, and show people the lessons from that, the way you mentor me or whatever. So that's the reason you're in that position, because to be honest with you, Colin, that's it. To corner the biggest sportsman in the world in UFC and stuff like that, that's not a normal job.
4 people on the planet.
Aye, that's not a normal
What's
job.
that word? If someone had got to pay for it, to walk out in front of 20,000 people and beyond the apron,
Aye.
in front of what's that word? It's priceless.
Priceless. Aye.
You can only earn shit like that. So you can only earn a black belt, you know. And like even after the last time he broke his leg, so when the fight's over, we go to the Wynn Hotel, because we're all staying out in the house, and we get a suite in the Wynn, go to a party downstairs, have a few drinks, and bounce. Job's over, but it's such a crash because you're on 24 hours a day. You're just always watching the phone. You know, you can't sit down and relax for the whole fucking camp. So it takes a lot out of you. And then I was checking in, and I get a message. You know, Conor broke his leg. Got a message. Conor wants you to go to the airport now, to go to LA. And I was just like,
Fuck's sake.
it's like.
So when does it end? When does it end for you? You know,
But for me, it was just like, and then I went, hang on a second. There's 8 people on that fucking jet, and he's asking you to be on that fucking jet.
That's a testament to your character again, though.
Yeah, well, because for a minute I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, come on, I just want to go home. I've done my job.
Aye.
And then I said, no, hang on a second. 8 people on the whole planet you could ask. He's asking me. So I had to go back out to the house, had a bike, strip the bike, pack my bag, and get down there. And he's lying on the floor with his broken leg. We had a beer together.
Aye, good.
And that was it. And stayed with him for a couple of months in LA, just to make sure he was okay. Because the problem with with a lot of stuff is everybody wants a piece of you, and you gotta, like, I love being on teams, so I do better doing stuff for other people rather than, like, I'll break me bollocks in a team, and cycling's very team sport orientated. Like,
Right.
if one of the lads is in the yellow jersey, I'll ride to the death for him, do you know what I mean? But I find I had to do that for myself, do you know, that kind of way?
Aye.
Whereas if you're doing something for somebody else, I'll give it everything I have, you know? And there you'll find that everybody is looking for something, especially now, you know, because it's like they think in an Instagram photograph that someone's going to make them. It doesn't do anything. Like, it makes no difference to you selling anything, you know. So I found a lot of the doctors want to be involved for the photograph, to say, well, I'm the surgeon that does this guy and that famous basketball and that fighter guy, and it's kind of like a celebrity version of that. So to stay relevant, like, just keep giving them more painkillers, keep showing up with more drugs from them, because you're there, you know, like, the surgery's done, they don't need you. So I had to be very watchful of that, that you didn't have that fall into, and all of a sudden you've got a guy who's addicted to fucking painkillers, and it can happen really, really fast, you know. So just that sort of stuff, but stay in the background, but yet be very.
You're a minder. It's still security in a sense.
It is in a sense. Whereas, like, the problem with security is security has to do with the tow by him rather than.
I don't mean like close protection security. I just mean him being secure, or whoever you're dealing with.
Yeah, because I give a shit.
Aye, that's what I'm saying. You've not got your bowl out saying give me.
Yeah.
It's like that free acupuncture session you gave.
Yeah.
It's coming for the heart. It's coming for a place. Like, this kid, I'm going to help. You know what I mean?
Well, see, for some reason he was given this mantle, this gift, this thing of a platform to stand up and change the world.
Yeah.
In good or bad. I don't know why he got it, but he got it. And my little piece was just to help that be a positive, not a negative. That's the way I looked at it. Rather than, I don't need to be front and centre, being on Twitter and fucking on the Ariel Hawani show. I don't need to that. That's not why I'm there. I'm not there for the fame. I'm there to do the job. And the job is to make sure that he doesn't stumble. Because it's very hard. Very hard, because you know who you're talking to, you know who you're looking to. But when you're on the outside, it's very good to get a good read or an objective of somebody, of what they're, like, okay, it's kind of like, if you want to know what they want, don't listen to what they say, listen to what they don't say. And it's in those conversation. They go, what do you want here? Why are you here? What do you want? You know, because you want something. You mightn't want money, but there's something you want. So you have to be kind of like a little bit protective, because, you know, you've got, in a sense, an innocent guy, really, because like nobody has a handbook to be at that level of things. And if people aren't looking out for you, you're going to get mauled. And business is like, I remember, what's his name? George Lockhart, the nutrition guy, you know, and he was saying, like, you know, man, I fought in 2 Iraq wars and in the UFC, he talks like that, you know. He goes, but I'm not prepared for business. It's fucking ruthless, you know. It's like ruthless, and it kind of is, you know. And when you start getting into those aspects of things and deals and stuff like that, it's like you really have to watch out for
Sharks.
Yeah.
Aye, businesses. I've experienced both sides. I always say that straight business is more ruthless than anything illegitimate.
Yeah.
Because there's
consequence to the other one.
Of course, if you're dealing in a legitimate business, there's a certain danger element to acting out of turn, but in business, there's no, man.
There's none.
The's
it's just all letters and notes and you can't do anything. Otherwise, you end up in jail for assaulting the guy. But
I was a car salesman for a long part of my life, and they're the most scrupulous out of anybody. Learned a lot of lessons for that.
Yeah.
So all that experience with the most famous athlete in the world at all that top level, I dare say that impacts your day-to-day coaching today with the young kids.
I was going to give it up.
Right. Well, you just had enough of it, Phil.
Well, it was kind of like I say, like there's guys still racing bikes that I started when I was 15, and there's so much to do out there in life. And I have this thing where, like, every 10 years, just reinvent yourself,
right?
Or find something that gets you out of bed the same as the other thing did. Maybe you might get you 20 years out of it. But I'd come back at a different speed when I'd go away, because I was staying in Beverly Hills Hotel now, and I'm getting, like, I've got a fucking toilet that heats my ass, you know. And, like, they call me Mr. Colin when I get out for breakfast and I'm wearing a suit, and I get like a fucking, you know, $150 steak and eggs every fucking morning, you know, and it's $1.50 a night, and I'm coming back to Lagos, right? Which is like no one's wearing shoes, and then the coffee machine's too slow.
Right. Wow.
You know, the little things, like you fucking drift very, very fast.
Yeah.
Very fast. When you're getting used to being hand and foot on all the time, and then you come back to, like, fucking put the capsule in and press it, and like, what's this thing so slow? Come on, I'm gonna fucking die here. You know, it just gets, and it takes a while to kind of just think. And then I was like, what the fuck am I doing in a room with a bunch of kids? Because there's a transition in the gym. It's kind of like when you get a football team that get a little bit older, and then there's this gap before you bring up the kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I've given my life to this place. I've given 15 years. I've probably done about 15,000 hours of teaching on the mat, and it's thanklessness. You know, there's not much thankfulness in it, really, right? And I had a couple of people that I thought were better, were decided to fuck off and do their own thing, and that hurt. And then I was like, why? Just let them do it. Let them do it. I don't want to be scrobbling for I'm not of that. I'm not here for that, you know. And then I just thought, like, and then why the fuck do I want to be teaching kids how to put their fucking hands up, or kids how to shrimp, or kids how to do forward rolls? That's for somebody else to do. I'm up here.
Right.
I want the nuances of how to slip a fucking jab right that much.
So you wanted maybe start dealing with competent fighters to bring them on a better level?
High end, to look at this tiny detail. And then I thought, what the fuck am I talking about? This is what I do. I'm a martial artist. I don't own it. I got to give it back.
So you want to go back to
that's what I do. I do it every day. You know, because, like, that's what I do. I don't own it. Right. It's not mine. It was given to me by a lot of people. It was hard earned by me and a lot of other people. You pay the price for it with your body, and I got to give it back.
Right.
Because it's served me well. I can't just take it and fuck off.
You need to ground yourself back to what you are, innit?
So I go back, and I can't walk at the moment because I've got fucking hip issues, and I'm sitting on the fucking mat trying to explain to people how to shrimp, and I can't do it myself. But that for me has been another bit of a challenge, because, like, I can't walk anymore. Temporary, but I can't walk. So people don't even notice that I'm sitting on the mat, if you know what I mean. So I have to find a different way to teach. Whereas I avoided it for a while. But you got to push into the sharp edges. You got to own it. Whereas I was hiding up in the car when the class was on. I wasn't coming down. They wouldn't even see me because I started noticing I couldn't get into positions. Little things started to go slowly.
Right.
And then I just thought, like, Star said to me, look, you need to fucking man up. You need to lead from the fucking front and show people how it is. If you get a little bit fucked up, you still fucking lead from the front.
And it's a challenge in itself.
Huge.
When I watched you the other day and you were teaching boxing with your crutches, and I actually thought to myself, I really, really seriously respected it. Like, wow, that is difficult.
Yeah.
Some days I don't feel up to it. Obviously, I go and coach, but I'm like, fuck, this is hard. But then I'm thinking, that's a challenge.
But it took me a while to come around to that.
I know, I can imagine.
Then that is the challenge. That's you got to accept these things. That's the lesson I've been given to learn and deal with and not lose the head. I've had in life where my head's been a fucking mess and my body's been great. And now my head's great and my body's a mess. I'd rather that. Do you know what I mean? Any day. Give me a good head any day. You can do anything. You can do anything. But if you've got a fucking messed up head, you're fucked.
The body's useless.
It is, yeah. And I think for me the lesson, what got my head straight was just letting go. People say it's, just let go. There's a saying, fear knocked the door and it was hope that answered and nobody was there.
I like that.
And or faith that answered and there was nobody there, because you've got to have faith and you got to have hope. And if you don't have those things, and the fear, it doesn't exist. It is a thing. You'll feel it, like the fear is in me. But once you acknowledge what the fear is and you recognise what it is, and it took me a long time to figure out what it was, and it came down to one simple thing. It's just control.
Right.
I was trying to control everything. Control my thoughts, control my actions, control what I was thinking, even though they were dark. But at some stage you just got to let them go. Don't let it, because you're hanging on to it in case you fucking go nuts. Just let it go.
That's very wise, man.
And that took me a long time to figure out.
That's very wise.
And it's easier said than done. We just accept it. There's a guy called Miyamoto Musashi, the Book of Five Rings.
I've got him tattooed there.
Did you know he wrote a second book?
No.
I didn't know that either. Right? So he's written a second book 7 days before he died.
Right.
Small little book. He had 10 students or 9 students. I didn't know he had any students. I just thought he lived in a cave, wrote the book and died, right? He had students. He was teaching. And there's a small little book. I can't remember the name, but I'll let you know it afterwards. But the first word, this is 7 days before he died, the first word of the book is acceptance.
Wow.
And that was the other thing I learned a lot was frequency and the frequency of things. And there's high frequency and low frequency. Everything has a frequency. This has a frequency. You have a frequency. The lights have a frequency. Bridges have a frequency. The highest frequency is like 600, 800 hertz. And that's God, Buddha, Jesus, Allah, whatever you want to call it. That higher entity. Light just went off. Yeah, I can fix it. Second one is the lowest frequency, which is shame.
Wow.
A frequency of 20.
Wow.
And it's only when you get to the frequency of 200, acceptance, is when the emotional frequencies go away. There's no space for emotional. If you're looking for enlightenment, there's no space for emotion. None.
Right.
Even pride. I don't say I'm proud anymore.
I don't say that at all.
I never say I'm proud. It's an emotional state.
I don't say that at all.
So you got like, there's a whole bunch of them. David Hawkins is the guy that wrote a lot of books about it. Really interesting books. And it's only when they say like people that get very depressed. When they're very, very depressed, they don't kill themselves. They haven't got the wherewithal to get out of bed and get a piece of rope in the pocket of stool and hang themselves. They can't get out of bed. It's only when they start to get better.
Right.
They're stuck in that fucking shame.
Right.
And it's only when they start to get fear and fucking anger. Anger's got great energy.
Yeah.
Because it drives it. Nothing I love more than just being fucking angry for 5 days and fucking like, fucking some energy off that.
If you channel it perfectly, it's
low level. You got to get past the anger and you got to get up. And then the last one of emotions is pride, and then acceptance. And once you start to accept, then you'll drift. Things will trigger you. Things will get you there back down. But once you recognise I need to get out of that emotional state and get into this acceptance and love, because there's 2 types of love. There's unconditional love and there's love hate. So you see this guy, I met this board, I love her. Next week he fucking hates her. That's emotional love. It's not love in its true sense. I think there is no opposite to love. Love is just a pure energy. So the mother loves the child. He's gone and killed 15 people. She still fucking loves him. It's unconditional.
Yep.
And they were the things that kind of got me through the darker times. Would have been understanding what it is rather than an entity on itself. Like if it's not there, it's not there. But if it feels like it's there and you can't address what it is, it's kind of like I used to have this thing where if someone is in a car behind me, I always think of them bigger and stronger and thinking that he has this little small guy gets out of the car. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you're fighting. You always have the fight week. The guy's bigger and stronger and everything when you're in your head, right? And then he comes up to the fight. It's not like the guy I was thinking about.
As soon as you hit him, the first shot, you're like, fuck, he's just the same like that there. He's just a normal guy.
He's a monster. So I think for me, if I was gonna say to people that were struggling mentally, I'd say just accept and just let it go. Don't hang on. Don't use any and get out of that emotional state. And that takes practice. With a bunch of things, get a mentor, find something that's stronger than it.
Right.
So if you for instance, if you're down and depressed, find something that's scarier than it. Mm-hmm. Do something that's scarier than it. That's because now that's scarier than it.
Yeah.
So push it. They have this thing. It's a type of therapy where your head sort of hit you on the head with a hit you on the toe with a fucking hammer. Your head's not sorry, toe sorry. It's gonna, it's that kind of like they were doing that with people with comas. They were hitting them on the foot with a hammer,
right?
And they'd wake up.
Right?
Yeah. It's kind of like it's one of those aversion therapy, I think it's called. But that was one thing I'd say, and that's probably one of the things why I started martial arts, because it scared me a little bit.
Right.
And it was scarier than the headspace I had.
Of course.
And in that, I'd forget about the headspace. And then eventually you get a bit of that, still a lot of that, more of that, less of that, more of that, more. And then all of a sudden you recognise what this is and it's nothing, And I think that's probably, and everyone's going to have times in their life where shit doesn't go. Sometimes you just wake up and nothing really happens. You just you wake up and you're in the mess.
Accept it.
Yeah.
Accept it.
Yeah. And then just do what you're doing, write, read, be productive, create. Don't
creation is important. I think I see your content. I've seen it for years and think, can I copy it? To be honest with you, when I see you walking in this door, you don't seem as if the kind of guy that would be doing that. Until when I first met you, do you know what I mean? And then when I got to know your character and stuff, I go, fuck, he has got some bit of wisdom. Why not put it out in the camera? Why not give it to the world? But creation. It's difficult. It's difficult even for myself to put a camera in I make a business out of it, but it's fucking difficult,
And
the practice obviously takes away the anxiety from it.
I was the same at the start. I'd be walking along the cliff, I'd see somebody in the back, and then what the they're not even looking at me. They're looking at the fucking view. Why am I so important? And like I say, it's like getting just and if you don't do it for a while, it becomes tricky again.
Yeah. I've not done it this week in holiday, and I was going to make something today, and I was a bit like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
So. The coaching, the creation.
Yeah.
You wrote a book recently?
Yeah, I decided to write a book on. I wrote a book on training, really.
Right.
And
that's to do with the McGregor Fast system?
Yeah, in a sense where. What it started off as, because it becomes different. So what happens is with McGregor Fast is we had this thing, me and Jules had this thing for athletes and MMA fighters, but MMA fighters are broke.
Right, of course.
And then we got these dragons that came in, we'll take it from here, and then it just comes jumping jacks with a flavour of martial arts.
Right.
Because that's what sells.
Right.
That's what it comes down to, right? Uh-huh. But I like exceptionalism. I like performance. I like the best that people can give, and what are the limits, and a lot of guys don't really. Everyone does what everyone does. So pick a sport, any sport. Everyone does what everyone does because no one questions it. Because you can't. You've got to come in the door and you don't know what you're doing. So just take. Yeah, so Thai boxing's the same. You go to Thailand. It's fucking roasting. Go jogging for 5k, sweating the bollocks off myself, tying my shoelaces. I don't need a warm up. Then I'm on a fucking tour. Then I'm on a skipping rope. Then I'm hitting the bag. Then I might get on the pads, and they don't even let you hit the pads because they don't want that. They're lazy, right? So they pull the pads all the time. So you've done 3 rounds of pads. You're there 3 hours, and you've hit the pads maybe fucking 15 times in 3 hours, and it's a really bad way to learn.
Yeah,
just let me hit the pads, or let me do some Thai boxing for an hour, and then we go home. Rowing, I came across some rowers years ago, and I was riding the bike, and they like to train 3 times a day. You can't train 3 times a day. You're overtraining.
Yeah.
So everyone does it, but the best overtrainer wins.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he's the best athlete. Do you know? So I looked at MMA and I think, like, what? No one, it's because it's new. The coaches don't know anything about performance because they don't come from an athletic background. They come from a fighting background.
Right.
They know about skills. So how is your jiu-jitsu coach going to know about fucking anaerobic threshold? He's kind of not, generally. So we just start bringing the stuff that we learned from cycling into it and saying, like, measurables, like wattage, power, heart rate, understanding what you're doing. What am I doing here? Because your body doesn't know you're doing MMA. It knows you're going to hear a bell and you're going to go for berserk for about a minute until you go, and then you got to pull back a bit, and then you go again, and you pull back a bit, and plus you're getting hit in the head. There's a lot going on, right?
Aye.
So let's do 5 5s, because that's what the fight is, or 3 5s all the time. You just pace yourself at that 15-minute effort. Come up with this thing called the 1 round principle. Let's do 3 1s or 5 1s. Let's do 1 round 5 times.
Right.
So
what's the difference between that and doing 5 rounds?
Because you're going to go 15-minute pace.
Right.
Or 25-minute pace.
Right,
It's go nice and steady.
Right, okay.
Let's do 1 round. Go balls to the wall for the round. Be completely bollocks. Take 5 minutes off.
Right.
Look at the video. See what you were doing wrong. Next round, I want you to be defensive. Taking a round off. Next round, I want you to only take them down. Next round, I only want you to get back up again. Plus, what you're not doing, and especially if someone's getting ready for a fight, if you've got a 5-round fight and there's a guy getting ready for a fight, he's fitter than everybody else. So at some stage, you're going to have to dump one of the training partners and get another fresh guy in after 3 rounds, which changes the whole fucking thing completely. You know, you're not wearing down the guy anymore. You know, you're not breaking him down like you would be in a fight.
Of course, yeah.
Whereas if everyone's getting 5 minutes gap in between the rounds, everyone's got a fresh guy.
Ah, yeah, that's really interesting.
And that, to me, made a lot of sense. Instead of this, like, what are we doing today? 5 5. How many 5-round fights have you ever had? 1.
1 off it.
How many Conor fights has he ever had? 1.
1.
So I was like, why are you training for? He's had 25 fights at 20. Why are you training for the fight that we never had? How many 1-round fights do you have? How many 2-round fights do you have? Why are you training for? Why are you do 2 rounds 3 times?
Right.
And for me, that made a lot of sense. So I started kind of looking at things like that. So I wrote a book about it.
So you're going all out on that shorter time frame.
Yes, and again, recover.
Now
also do 3 round things. It doesn't have to be the same all the time.
Right,
but why not just fucking think about what you're trying to do? Plus, then the anaerobic or the training that we would do would be, so for instance, like running, row machine, bike, right? And in those 3 sessions, that you'd have your skills in the morning, then your aerobic stuff in the evening. And in those 3 sessions, I just had a rest day Sunday. Monday's the first day back training. That's my most explosive, freshest day.
Right.
So that's my shortest training, but the most explosive training.
Right.
So that's the day I do fucking like hard jits rounds, like balls to the wall. And then you come see me later on in the evening, or you go out and you get on the treadmill, or you go find 100 meters and you sprint 6 times, take a 1.5 minute rest. Then the next day, I'm a little bit beat up. So you do your skills, and then you do a longer interval, a 3 minute, 4 minute, 5 minutes, hard you can go for 5 minutes, 2 minutes off, do 2 or 3 down. And then the next day, you're a little bit beat up, so you just do a long steady stay. Go out for the bike for an hour, a little ride. And that's what improves.
Scientific way of approaching that.
Yeah. It's kind of like, okay, I'm an 800 meter runner and I want to break 2 minutes. And I'm 2 minutes 20, right? How do I break 800? How do I get to the 2 minutes? Do I keep running 800 meters and trying to do it faster? No. It's very simple. So you break the 800 meters into small pieces. So I do 200 meters at 2 minute pace. Take a gap. I do 200 meters at 2. Do you understand what I mean?
Yep.
And then I do a few of them. Then next week I do 400 meters at 200 meter pace. And then 500 meters and 600. And all of a sudden I get to the 800 meters and I can do it. You can't do it otherwise.
No, just trying harder is not going to.
No. So you got to like feel what that pace is like and see how long you can keep it for. Take a rest and do it again. Do it again, and your body will adapt to that pace. And all of a sudden you'll be able to do longer, and all of a sudden you're running 800 meters, 200. That's the only way to do it. Whereas that's not understood in the MMA game.
No.
And, you know, it takes a lot of like knowledge and sitting down and thinking about it. Just whatever your sport is, just think about what the fuck you're doing. Your body doesn't know what it is. Think about what that is, rather than it's a 5-minute round. No, it's a 5-minute interval with fucking sub-intervals, anaerobic intervals in it, where you're going to gas and then you have to recover. No one's going at like a super steady pace for 5 minutes. You do that when you're sparring.
Of course.
Fight's different.
Aye.
So that was what the book's about. So, yeah, it was good to write it. And I'm going to write another one, and then I'm working on stuff that I can do. I'm going to do a little bit of online coaching.
I was going to actually say that there. There's a lot of value and wisdom you can do. Like,
well, it's not about fighting, right? If you want to like get all these kids, and I say it to them all the time, like there's like, they want to be in the UFC. Okay, how are you in front of the camera like you are? I'm shy. So what's going to happen when you show up in fucking Vegas, fight week, you get a call, you go to the thing for the week, and you got a bunch of fucking idiots asking you stupid questions. It's going to take from you.
Yeah.
It's going to take from you, and you're going to like fall apart, and you're going to waste all this energy, nervous energy, and then when you come to the fight, it's energy. So my thing would be, get your phone, put it in front of you, start talking to your phone. You don't and publish it, but you don't have to show anyone that you've even published it. It's not for your Instagram, just for you to get comfortable. It takes time. And then watch a press conference at the end of the fight. And then listen to the questions. Because they all ask the same fucking stupid questions.
Yeah.
And answer the questions yourself, not let them do it.
That's cool.
You always get the same guy. It's either your man John answers in the because he was the first ever guy, or now the MacLife guy does as well. But it's always the same questions. So you put your own tone on it. And don't forget, it's not about being the best fighter. It's the best entertainer, right? Mm-hmm. You could lose fights all over the place, but your fucking people want to see it because there's something special about you, or you speak well, or they like you, or what you stand for. You know?
Marketability, for being that size athlete, obviously Conor was the best at it, is very, very important. Super important.
Well, look, no one was walking out with a flag before him. No one was doing media before him.
Suits.
No one was doing the suits. No one was doing the beard. No one was doing a lot of the stuff, you know? So, like, he changed a lot of different things, you know? And then you kind of forget quickly. No one ever had a match with somebody else. Mayweather.
I know. I went to that.
Biggest fight of all time, ever, you know? So, like, if I was to educate guys and I say to them certain things, like, watch the way you speak, because you're talking to an American audience. Yeah. So if you're using colonialisms, like where you're from, little words like in Dublin they have like ecker is an old word for homework, me gaff, you know, me board, you know, they don't make any sense in America. Like the bonnet of the car. Like, what the fuck's the bonnet of a car? You know, it's like a bonnet. Side footpath. What the fuck? You know, what's footpath? You know, it's a sidewalk. You know, you got to understand what the language you speak. You got to speak American. Yeah. And I wouldn't say get elocution. Get acting lessons.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
You know, not elocution lessons because it's a little bit of an insult to how you speak, but get acting lessons. Yeah. Go and do some acting. Express yourself. Learn to play a character. Learn to play a role, because that's what it is.
That's what they want.
That's what they want, and so that's really what I'd say to people, and then giving advice on how to get to the UFC. Like, how are you going to get to the UFC? Yeah,
you need to market yourself before.
Yeah, and then also you got to like be ready when there's a fight in Europe if you're in Europe, and you know, be ready to say like, "Fucking, I'm on weight." If now there's a fight in 3 months' time, and I'm 70 kilos and this fight's at 70 kilos, be on weight. Yeah, because one of them's got to pull out. And just like, okay, dude, I'm fucking in shape. I've been training for the last 6 weeks. You know the fight was coming up. Why wouldn't you do that? Especially if you're young and keen and eager. Things like that, you know. So I'd say I'd be interested in, you know, spreading that a little bit and the knowledge that I learned along the way.
That's a full course. That's a full program that there you've just broken down, man. That's really interesting.
But it's you're looking at it a little bit differently, right? Rather than I had a guy here, Zay Machado. He's a world champion.
Yeah, trained him. Yeah,
really good guy, right? Yeah. And he showed up here. You were away at the time. And I was like, "You're fat." And he's like, "What? You're fat. You're world champion and you're fucking fat." Because he was all shredded, wasn't he? Aye. And I spent 15 minutes giving him a fucking baller. Good. Going, this is disgraceful. Okay, now you had a management company. Okay, so the management company gets you a deal, right? We got this fitness fucking line, or we got this protein company. I want to sponsor you. They're going to give you fucking 20 grand. Wow. Going to do a video shoot, photo shoot next week. He shows up as a fat cunt. Take off your top and shadow box. Like, well, that's the deal. Like, what are you fucking doing? What are you doing? Do you want to be a fighter? Or do you want to be a fat cunt? Resting on your laurels from 6 months ago? Who gives a fuck about that? Okay. And then I saw him there, lady, shredded again.
Good.
And it was just like, how are you going to get to the UFC? And he's like, I said, look, if that fucking thing is on in Europe, you want to be ready for all those cards in Europe and go like, hey, I'm fucking ready. I'll fucking take it. They will fucking eat you up. Dana loves that shit. You know, it's either get in the Contender Series, Ultimate Fighter, which is I wouldn't recommend it to anybody after being a coach on it, and or just be ready when someone's going to pull out.
I think that's the most important one.
100%. And
being in shape, being in that constant as not as much as you can battle state.
Yeah.
Be ready.
Yeah. Or go and train with the guys that are getting ready and beat one of them up and then take his place. You know? That's an old Japanese way of doing it.